on. I said, do I need anything from you? She said, no, just go.
Okay. What's going on? Matthew here, Actual Exotic Cars, and I thought I would kind of mix things up this week, and I'm doing a reaction video to a video that I just watched a little bit, found it somewhat interesting. This is going to be my first time watching the entire video, and basically it is about importing vehicles from Mexico into the USA. I've always thought this has been a very interesting topic, and I'm kind of excited to see what the process is like, and I guess we will see. Shout out to VinWiki for releasing this video. It's a very interesting channel in my opinion, and I would definitely recommend any of my viewers, if you watch my stuff, you'd probably be interested in their material as well.
A friend of mine that went to Clemson took a job in Mexico. We needed a car for an event later this year, sometime next year, and we decided that we were going to buy a car in Mexico. We found a 1977 Dodge Dart station wagon outside of Monterrey in Saltillo. I got to see lots of cars that you don't see in the U.S. The Pacheros are down there, some little Suzuki. Do a little sightseeing around Mexico. We know that we've got.
So he kind of hit on this a little bit. Definitely a big advantage of importing from Mexico over, let's say, Canada, for example. Canadian and the U.S. market are pretty much like interrelated, where Mexico gets a lot of vehicles that the U.S. unfortunately does not. Suzuki's, for example, a lot of the mini trucks that we see going around that are imported from Japan, you can buy those domestically within Mexico. There's a lot of vehicles that are specific, or a lot of European vehicles that Mexico gets that the U.S. market does not. On the flip side of that coin, they also still get most of the U.S. vehicles. So there's actually usually a larger variety of vehicles you can purchase in Mexico, while you can still find a lot of, you're still going to see Ford F-150s, you're still going to see a lot of SUVs, where Europe, for example, you're not necessarily going to see those either. So it's kind of a mixture between, I guess, the European car market in the U.S. car market. And I would say even a little bit of the Japanese. There's a huge Suzuki presence. From my experience in Central America, I'd imagine that would carry over to Mexico quite a bit too. Plus, price-wise, you'd probably be dealing with cheaper prices given the location. And again, the cool thing about Mexico compared to, let's say, shipping something over from the other side of the world is like you can do what this guy did and literally just fly there and drive it back. So there's definitely a lot of advantages going into the Mexican car market. Let's continue.
Got to clean the car before we can take it across the border. So we go back to his house. We spend 2 days with a pressure washer that we bought at Lowe's underneath the car on a jack in the parking lot, trying to get all the dirt out of it, get everything cleaned out. We check the water, change the oil, do all these things because I'm driving it back to.
No, technically speaking, whenever you import a vehicle, you are supposed to remove all the debris from it. I did not necessarily do that with my Soviet van, but it is recommended, especially shipping through ports, through land borders, though. I don't know if this is necessarily a requirement. I haven't heard it being a requirement. I guess the major concern is bringing any, weird contaminants or anything from another country into your country. Obviously, if your vehicle is super dirty, it would, especially when you're shipping it from abroad or driving it from abroad, still might not necessarily be a bad idea to wash it off, though I really doubt they would do anything on the border about that.
South Carolina from Saltillo, Mexico. We blew a radiator hose at the last checkpoint before we get to the border. So we look up Advance Auto, just one down the road. We walk in. It's just a main radiator hose. Walk into the Advance Auto, and they say they have a radiator hose for 1977 Dodge Dart, form, fit, and everything, but it's not there. It's at the other Advance Auto.
No, big advantage, I guess, of actually driving your vehicle in the country that you bought it in, especially if it's something exotic that has never been sold in the U.S. And I guess a good example of this would be when I was in Russia and I was buying my Soviet van. We had a ton of issues when we drove it to the port, and we were able to resolve those issues relatively simply in Russia because parts were widely available. Mechanics were used to working on these. Where stateside, that necessarily wouldn't be an option. So in a weird way, I would rather drive the vehicle for a little bit before I ship it out, if it's something especially not really sold in the U.S. That way, if anything does happen, it's a common vehicle. You can get everything fixed, and everything taken care of before you even bring it stateside. The last thing you want is to start driving your vehicle and then a weekend you have a million problems. Now you're shipping parts from the other side of the world. Nobody wants to work on it. It's just a plethora of problems. So in a weird way, like if something like this is going to happen, you want it to happen in the country you're exporting from.
So we go to the other Advance Auto. We get a radiator hose. Now I've been into Nuevo, I've been into the border town. So I've seen, on our way back, we had to stop and get water. Went to the grocery store. There's a guy guarding the exit to the grocery store with a mini machine gun, just like with his hand on it. Just
Not really related to the topic at all, but I kind of had the same thing when I was in Panama. You would have police officers with literally Uzis like everywhere. Never at any point did I ever feel like I was in danger or anything like that. I think that's just more of a Central American thing. If anybody wants to comment on that, I would be kind of curious myself. But yeah, that was very common. You just have shops or supermarkets, and there'd just be a cop just chilling out with like a fully, I don't know if it's fully automatic, but literally just chilling out with the machine gun. It's like, okay, it's a little intimidating, but like I said, that's just kind of more normal down there.
standing. And then the van gets pulled over. I pull over behind the van. They pull off to the side. I pull off to the side. In normal fashion, you want to take a photo of the event, and I took a photo in the mirror of him pulled over in the van by the police. And I sit and wait. A few minutes later, my friend comes up, gets me out of the car. He said, "Hey, did you take a photo of the policeman?" I said, "Yeah, it's in my phone." He said, "Well, you're going to have to go show them that you delete that photo." So walk back to the car, reach in, I show him my phone, I hit delete, and then I walk away. It's 2,000 peso bribe for taking their picture.
Now, this is something you're going to have to deal with in corrupt countries. If you're dealing with police officers, you should not have any issues videoing or recording a police officer, especially at a routine traffic stop. As far as paying bribes go, in the heat of the moment, they probably thought it was the best deal. I guess knowing me, I probably would have tried to fight it because that is absolutely ridiculous. Even in a country like Mexico, I feel like that's absolutely ridiculous. But things happen and expect the unexpected, and you're not a local, and they know it. And for a lot of people, this is their chance to get a little bit extra cash off of you.
In the meantime, before going to Mexico, I'd called Border Patrol in Laredo 10, 15 times to make sure we had everything we need. What paperwork do we need? Do I have all the paperwork? Do I have everybody's driver's license? Do I have photos of everything? Where am I supposed to go? What's the process like? And I get different answers from everybody. If you want to take a car to Mexico, it's really easy. You want to get a car out of Mexico, it's really hard.
So basically, the only paperwork you should need would be the same thing of bringing a vehicle through a port. You basically need to have obviously some sort of bill of sale, some sort of foreign title. All that needs to be translated into English, notarized before you even leave the country. You probably need some sort of custom 7501 form, which they should be able to give you. It might even be a good idea if you're dealing with all this confusion. I have dealt with it myself to get some sort of customs broker to take care of everything on your behalf. I'm sure there's a million on the border. That's definitely something else I would recommend. I would rather pay somebody $100, $200 than have to deal with precautions of violating some weird law or checking some random box that I forgot to do. Those are something right off the bat that I would strongly recommend. That's coming from personal experience myself. But anyway, we carry on. He did contact the border, which is something you do need to do, by the way. Especially, the Canadian border up near where I am, it's a lot simpler of a process, but yeah, especially going through the Mexican border, or even if you want to buy something from Central America and drive it through Mexico, it's definitely, I would contact the border because you are going to have to go to some sort of customs so they can release and clear the car.
So I know I have to go to Bridge 2. I saw the main bridge, and I knew that was not the bridge to go to. So I saw the other bridge. It had some words that sounded official in Spanish that I don't speak, but looked official. So I said, "Oh, that's my bridge." So I take that bridge. There's a guard check to pay a toll. They ask me for paperwork, and I show them the paperwork I have for the car, and they tell me I'm at the wrong gate, that I need to turn around and go back into town, which I did not want to do. They're like, go back into town, go out, go back into town, turn around, come back and go the other bridge that you passed on your way. And I'm on my way out to go back into town off of the border bridge. And I get stopped by the Mexican Army.
So usually what happens here is when you go through a border crossing, if you've never been through one before, is they will stamp you out of the country that you are in, and then you get stamped into the new country. So basically what he's saying here is he could not get stamped out of Mexico. This has nothing to do with the U.S. at this point.
They point me to the side to search the car. So now the Mexican army is searching the car. The key.
I have also had this happen to me before when I was crossing into Serbia from Montenegro. Another thing why I strongly recommend that you have all your ducks in a row, you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, make sure everything's done correctly. There is a probability whenever you go international that you will have your vehicle searched. You might have all your baggage searched, all your luggage. Make sure you clear everything. Don't do anything illegal and don't be stupid.
Key on the back hatch, where the wagon doesn't have a lock. And the only way to open it is with a screwdriver. But the one military guy is going through my bags. The other guy's yelling at me.
They probably thought it was kind of suspicious that somebody was going to Mexico to bring back a vehicle like this, and that's probably why they decided to get searched. I know when I got searched myself, it's basically an American going through kind of a backwoods border crossing, and they probably thought it was kind of odd.
Well, what bridge am I supposed to be on? She says Bridge 2. And I said, well, I was on Bridge 2. They sent me over here to you. I said, I just went through all that, and what do I do? You're going to turn me around?
So unfortunately, for some odd reason, it's probably due to the lack of international travel of U.S. citizens, especially across borders other than Canada. U.S. Border Patrol, I've seen a lot of videos of similar occurrences to this where for some odd reason they just don't seem to know the rules or anything. And this is why you need to do your own research, unfortunately, is because I have seen lots of videos of clueless border control agents when you're trying to, take something through from, especially the Mexican border on the U.S. side. A great example of this, if you've ever watched Itchy Boots at all, which I strongly recommend, it's basically some girl that drives around on a motorcycle throughout the world. When she took hers to the U.S., I'll play a little clip of it here. She literally had to explain to the border control agent all the paperwork and everything she had because she had no idea at all, even though that is her job.
Yeah, that's very much easier to do that, but not if you've been to Iran.
So once you go to Iran, you can do extra.
No, there's like 7 countries, I think.
Is that all?
Iran? No, it's not. Iran, Yemen, I don't know. I think 7 countries. If you've been there, you can't get the ESTA anymore.
Wow, why you went there?
So it definitely does not surprise me that this happened at all, and I'm kind of curious to see how it turns out.
The lady that has all my paperwork, she walks over to me. She hands me my papers, and she said, carry on. I said, do I need anything from you? She said, no, just go.
Okay, so he should have got some sort of customs clearance release or some sort of 7501 form basically saying that your vehicle has entered the U.S. They should have some sort of form that they should have gave them. I have some examples personally that I will show here. This is a customs entry summary form that I got from a port. You should get something very similar from the border as well. As far as this is a cargo release status, he should have got some sort of something from the border basically stating that, hey, my vehicle just went through. These are the customs that I'm paying. The big thing is paying the duty. So all the taxes and everything that you do have to pay for a vehicle, I think it's only like 2.5% or something. For a truck, it's like 25%. Basically stating that you paid any duties or anything, just like if you were to bring a bunch of alcohol or something from abroad the border, you gotta do the same thing at the customs control. It is the same thing. So the fact that he didn't get any paperwork at all probably means that he didn't even pay anything for the vehicle. I don't know if he specified whether or not he was actually importing the vehicle, if he made that clear. It was just, hey, I'm trying to go across the U.S. border. I kind of doubt that. I'm sure that he said, hey, I bought this vehicle, given the fact that there was the whole bridge situation going on and he couldn't find out which way to go. Kind of disappointing, doesn't really surprise me. I guess ahead of time you should have known, hey, I need this 7501 form. You can also, I would even print out the PDF myself. This is the empty PDF, and basically have them fill it out for you. You need some sort of form basically saying that it went through customs, this is the duty that I paid. And like I said, I would even strongly recommend contacting some sort of customs agent, like third-party agent, some sort of broker, before you even go through this process, because it can get kind of shady if you have a vehicle. I think you can only do a temporary import of a vehicle for up to a year in the U.S. So theoretically speaking, if he gets this vehicle into the U.S., he only has 1 year where he can drive it, and then he's kind of screwed, for lack of a better terminology.
I said, just go. She's like, you're good, just go. And I went, okay. I drove down the road.
Again, this guy should have known the forms that were required. It's not necessarily too complicated. It should have just been 1 or 2 pieces of paper. I would have just said, hey, I need some sort of confirmation that this is through customs and I paid duty on it. Evidently, he didn't do that, so we will see what happens.
Found the first place I could find that said Texas, which is a furniture store. Pulled in front of it, took a picture of the car, sent it to my buddy. I said, good news, I'm in America. The bad news, the car's not. It's here, but it's not legal. As far as I know,
So this guy's already aware of the fact that it's not legal, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't try to force the officer or whoever the customs agent or whatever to give him some sort of confirmation. But anyway,
I don't have anything. And I really didn't. She didn't. I just had forms that we filled out. Not, as far as I knew, that wasn't the whole thing. But I had
usually they'll stamp a paper or something. I've had that from the ports where the customs agent will literally stamp a paper saying that it's cleared. But
the car. It's in the U.S. We don't care anymore. It's got insurance. We're good. Luckily, Greer, South Carolina has an inland port. Border Patrol agent was very helpful and finally got the car there. The VIN was interesting because there's no VIN. There's a VIN, but it's not. There's a place that a VIN plate goes, but there's no VIN. It's just like on the dash up in the window. There's nothing there. There's a stamp on the firewall that has the VIN number, which is only 5 digits. There's a stamp on the firewall. But at some point, someone retrofitted AC and drilled holes through the VIN number. So that kind of tells.
classic. So if you ever try to import anything Soviet from the U.S., at least I know from my experience, the UAZs, the VIN number they actually put with like paint or something on the bottom of the frame or something ridiculous like that. So after a few years, they rotted off anyway. And because of that, most or a lot of UAZs, especially the older ones, don't have VIN numbers, and that is something you will have to deal with. Basically, they want any sort of number they can use to register the vehicle. I ended up using UAZ, for example, has a body number on the side of the passenger seat. I ended up using that as my VIN number. You can also use an engine number or something of this similar.
A part of the number is there, so we know that that's right. And then there's a tag, a service tag that we actually never found it. The Border Patrol found a service tag that was riveted on the top of the firewall that just so happened to have all but 1 digit of the VIN. It had the last part of it, not the first part. And he was able to say, yeah, this is that car. We have the original paperwork from the check that was written to the dealer to all 7 owners, all the way up to us. But down there, they don't have titles either, so we still don't have a title. But that Border Patrol.
So they should have had some, even if they don't have necessarily a title, they should have had some sort of form or something to register with the government. I kind of doubt that they don't have anything of the sort. So I'd be kind of curious to look more into Mexican law. Again, if you have more experience with that, I guess please leave a comment or let me know.
Agent was able to get me the proper paperwork, get me legally in the U.S., certified the car that it can permanently stay as a U.S. citizen. Now we just have to.
And I know I probably made this sound a little overcomplicated. There's like literally one form they should give you at the border proving that you paid duty and that the vehicle is through the border. Like that's literally it. That's what he should have got from the bat. Evidently that never happened. Thankfully he was able to get the situation rectified in South Carolina at a port border. They're probably a little more used to doing this type of stuff over there, but still I find it absolutely ridiculous that a border agent cannot do something that in my mind should be fairly simple. So thank you for watching. I thought I would kind of mix things up a little bit. And again, shout out again to VinWiki for providing this video. I thought it was very interesting and a good insight. It's something I've been thinking about myself, importing vehicles from Central America or Mexico for that matter, going across the border. And obviously, doing it yourself would be cheaper than shipping through a port. And like I said, there's a wider range of cars in Mexico than there are in the U.S. Again, check out my website if you want, wasamerica.com. If you want anything imported from Eastern Europe, I am definitely more than willing to try to help you out with that process, merchandise, all sorts of cool stuff on there. And thank you for watching.